to open the place of burial for a number of weeks each year. The decision was made to avoid this church becoming a shrine for thousands of visitors for years to come. Prince Charles and Princes William and Harry, who last night came to look at the flowers and tributes for the Princess of Wales outside Balmoral Castle, are also flying back to London today to prepare for tomorrow's funeral. Lauren Taylor, ITN.
Well, our correspondent David Rose is at Aberdeen Airport, from where the Queen will fly back to London. David, what's happening there now?
We reckon the royal party will arrive here in about an hour's time after a 70-minute drive through the rich rolling countryside of Aberdeenshire from Balmoral. Their cars, once they're here, will drive along here straight onto the tarmac and to the two waiting British-built planes of the Royal Squadron, which are waiting behind me. Once the first party's on board, that'll take off immediately for London.
Expecting to be in the first party?
Well, there's a lack of information as ever, but we think Prince Charles and the two young princes will be in the first party, obviously keen to get to St James's Chapel. Once they've left Scotland, that'll be their last time in Scotland for a long time. The Queen and the Duke will be coming back on Saturday night and will be joined by the Prime Minister on Sunday.
David Rose, thank you very much. As crowds prepare to descend on London, the focus is now moving from the royal palaces to Westminster Abbey. It's there that the events of the past week will reach a climax tomorrow, and already people are claiming a place outside.
Overnight, Westminster Abbey became the latest focal point for mourners flocking to London to pay their last respects to the Princess of Wales. Hundreds are camped on pavements outside the Abbey, compelled just to be there, an eyewitness to a piece of tragic history.
I just wanted to be here, you know, with the atmosphere, everything like that. I was just upset when I heard, you know, I mean, Diana was such a beautiful person, and nobody will ever replace her. I'm so shocked. It's just a complete tragedy. Still can't really believe it's happened. I still can't believe this is happening now. I don't think I'll believe it until I actually see her coffin.
And at Buckingham Palace this morning, an ever-growing field of flowers as the nation prepares to say a final farewell. Chris Roberts, ITN.
Elton John's been talking about the song that he'll sing at the funeral, a new version of his Candle in the Wind. He spoke at the MTV Awards in New York.
When Elton John appeared, he announced that some of the proceeds from this event would go towards the Princess Diana Memorial Fund.
In fact, $100,000 has been set aside to help support the AIDS charities to which Diana so generously donated her time, her energies and her love.
In July, at the funeral of Gianni Versace, the princess comforted the singer. Now for her, the singer has rewritten his most famous song.
Seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in.
Goodbye, England's Rose. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever will. So it's 3 verses about her, and it's a beautiful lyric, and fitting for her.
A eulogy to an actress is set to become an anthem for a princess. In New York, Elton John has spoken for the music industry. Tomorrow he will sing for the world, and perhaps the biggest audience it has ever known. John Irvine, ITN, New York.
And while we've been on the air, we've just received pictures of Prince Charles, Prince William and Prince Harry leaving Balmoral to fly to London for the Princess of Wales' funeral tomorrow. In our lunchtime news, we'll obviously have full coverage of the royal family's day as they head back to London. That's at 12:30 with Dermot Murnhan and me.
Good morning. Northern Ireland Electricity has announced that it's to sell its 34 Shop Electric outlets. The buyer in the £10 million deal is 3i, a major venture capital company. Existing high street shops are to be refurbished and 2 new superstores created. The investment's expected to create another 200 jobs on top of the existing staff of 230 people. A service of remembrance and reflection for Diana, Princess of Wales, is to be held at the headquarters of the Presbyterian Church at lunchtime today. It follows a similar service in St Patrick's Cathedral in Armagh last night. It was led by the Church of Ireland Primate Robin Eames and the Catholic Primate Sean Brady. The two church leaders said Diana united people here in grief and she has left a legacy of compassion. Police in Coleraine are concerned about a 51-year-old woman who's been missing since Monday morning. Patricia Geraldine McElhinney from Rectory Road drove off in her family's black-coloured Fiat Uno car, registration number NIW.
Not for a moment was there any rush. And then taking single lilies, they laid them down with the rest of the tributes. And the three princes went into Kensington Palace. The royal family, led by the Queen, were nearing Buckingham Palace, arriving down Constitution Hill, where Diana's coffin will pass tomorrow. Their thoughts on this end of the journey home will never be known. Surely they will never be forgotten. For the Queen and Prince Philip, this was their first sight of the royal residence, now garlanded with 1 million bouquets. And as they arrived, there was applause, and it spread and it rippled with affection through the crowds. And there was always time today. For talking, for taking bouquets, for accepting those words of sympathy. There had been some tears in the crowd, but mostly the people seemed comforted by the presence once again of the Queen and the rest of the royal family back in Buckingham Palace. Waiting all day with a rose for a princess, this man queuing at St James's Palace gave it to the Queen. It was gratefully received. For the crowds waiting up to 12 hours to sign the Book of Condolence, the Queen and Prince Philip were the day's most unexpected arrivals. Here, mother's talk perhaps, the sentiments were clear. And Prince Philip found himself lingering in a number of conversations. The Queen later saw the 43 books of condolence where the crowds had been recording their tributes, the books destined for the Spencer family archive. Later this evening, the Prince of Wales will bring his sons to the Chapel Royal to see their mother's coffin. Colin Baker, ITN.
And we go now to Helen Wright at Buckingham Palace. Helen, you were there among the crowd this afternoon. What was it like?
Quite extraordinary, John. This morning the mood was very sombre, very reflective. Even though there were thousands of people here, it was very quiet. But this afternoon, when the rumours started to spread that the Queen was coming, the atmosphere changed completely. There was a real buzz here. And when the Queen's car pulled up and she stepped out, as you probably heard in Colin's package, she was greeted by thunderous applause. And I know as the Queen has walked among people here, she's told them she's very sorry they've had to wait to see her, and how much she's appreciated them being here. I know one person really impressed upon the Queen and said, please, please look after Princes William and Harry, and she told them that she would. And she also shared with the crowd how difficult it had been for the young princes to cope with this terrible situation.
And the weather suddenly changed. Did it make a difference?
Didn't make any difference. A really heavy downpour, but the crowds were not put off at all. They're determined to stay here.
Thank you, Helen. Coming up in this specially extended early evening news, live from Buckingham Palace, the Queen speaks soon. Burial on the island in the lake, the last resting place for the princess. And saying it with flowers, 1 million farewells from the public. It was announced today that the princess will now be buried on an island in a lake on the Althorpe estate. Her brother, Earl Spencer, said he had decided to move the burial place from the family chapel, which is outside the grounds, to allow her sons privacy when they visited. Eric McInnes reports from Althorpe.
The gates of Althorpe, the destination of so many mourners, and behind which we now know the princess will finally be laid to rest. It is here, on this island, in the centre of the estate's ornamental lake, that Princess Diana's coffin will be brought tomorrow afternoon. It is the family wish that she be buried here, a place of serene beauty, where her relatives, in particular her 2 young sons, can come in privacy and pay their respects. For 150 years, members of the family have planted trees here, including Princes William and Harry. While 20 generations have been buried in the village church, the decision is a break with Spencer tradition, a unique arrangement allowing Princess Diana to rest on the estate.
I think it's the right decision for privacy for the princes.
I think that it's good. I think that they should be allowed some private time.
Today, roads were being closed in preparation. Large crowds are expected to line the route up to the gates. There, her coffin will slip from public gaze forever. But the family are making plans to allow visitors at designated times in the future. Anticipating the public need, the Spencer family are also considering erecting a memorial outside the gates so that people can come and pay tribute whenever they wish. Eric McInnes, ITN, Althorpe.
The scale of the country's grief was given scope today by the news that an estimated 1 million bouquets of flowers have been laid outside the 3 royal palaces. Thousands more people queued to sign the books of condolence, their last chance until after tomorrow's funeral. Andrew Simmons reports.
The pale mass of flowers which dwarfs the hundreds of people surrounding it solemnly marks out a capital like no other in the world this evening. It started with a few flowers before the gates of Kensington Palace at the top edge of this vast garden of remembrance. Now all approach roads are smothered by bouquets. And here the sweetly scented carpet laid before Buckingham Palace. On this 6th day of public mourning, even bigger crowds converged on London, with tributes reflected right across the nation in similar gestures. So many found it impossible to absorb from pictures and words what has been going on. And that is perhaps why such a vast number have impulsively headed for London to join in with their own personal tributes.
And amongst the people, it is still hard to take in the enormity of it all. Outside the 3 royal palaces, more than 1 million bouquets have been laid. A Buckingham Palace spokesman says all of the flowers will remain in place over the weekend. After that, it's yet to be decided where they'll be taken to. But every single message will be collected and passed on.
So many were still waiting to sign the 43 books of condolence at St. James's Palace that officials decided at lunchtime to close 5 hours earlier than planned. The books will be reopened for signing tomorrow afternoon at Kensington Palace. This morning, hundreds awoke from a cold night sleeping on the streets, their way of getting close to a funeral which will be like no other. And this the scene a short distance from Westminster Abbey. As with every day of this week, flowers will be in abundance tomorrow, despite stocks at florists coming close to depletion. Massive consignments have been flown in from abroad. Few can gauge how they will cope with emotions tomorrow, as the spontaneous acts which have been so overwhelming this week are channeled into the sad formality of Saturday. Andrew Simmons, ITN, Central London.
It was revealed today that Princess Diana's coffin will be moved by hearse from the Chapel Royal at St James's Palace to her home at Kensington Palace at around 8 o'clock tonight. Then tomorrow morning, timed with military precision, she'll be carried on a gun carriage for the 2-hour journey to Westminster Abbey. John Draper reports.
This is the gun carriage on top of which the princess's coffin will be placed for tomorrow's funeral cortege. This afternoon the carriage was still in 2 pieces. The section on the right will be where the horses will be harnessed. Soldiers of the King's Troop are making last-minute preparations. They accompanied Churchill and Mountbatten's funerals. Tomorrow will be especially demanding.
Uppermost in their minds will be the fact that they're taking part in a tremendous expression of the nation's sadness.
Tomorrow the princess's coffin will be placed on this simple oak board on top of the gun carriage. It'll be draped with the royal standard. At the front, 3 pairs of horses will draw the gun carriage, each pair controlled by 1 rider. These soldiers have undertaken similar ceremonials in the past, but never with such sadness. John Draper, ITN, with the Royal Horse Artillery.
Elton John, who will be singing at Princess Diana's funeral, led tributes to her at the MTV Music Awards in New York last night. In a separate interview on American television, he said it was tragic that she would never know just how highly the public regarded her. John Irvine reports.
Here in New York, the music industry congratulated the superstars of British popular music, who in turn paid tribute to Diana, the popular princess. When Elton John appeared, he announced that some of the proceeds from this event would go towards the Princess Diana Memorial Fund.
In fact, $100,000 has been set aside to help support the AIDS charities to which Diana so generously donated her time, her energies, and her love.
In July, at the funeral of Gianni Versace, the princess comforted the singer. Now for her, the singer has rewritten his most famous song.
Seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in.
Goodbye, England's Rose. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever will. So it's 3 verses about her, and it's a beautiful lyric.
In New York, Elton John has spoken for the music industry. Tomorrow he will sing for the world, and perhaps the biggest audience it has ever known. John Irvine, ITN, New York.
And Elton John has now flown back to this country. Today he was at Westminster Abbey, where he was rehearsing for his performance during the funeral. Tomorrow he was visited by the Blairs. The Prime Minister is reading a lesson at tomorrow's funeral. And Elton John will be singing the song Goodbye England's Rose, adapted from the song he wrote for Marilyn Monroe, new words dedicated to Princess Diana, which he'll perform tomorrow. The Fayed family today revealed that Princess Diana had given Dodi 2 special gifts during their 5-week relationship. One was a set of cufflinks belonging to her father, the late Earl Spencer. The other, a gold cigar clipper with the message, "With love from Diana." A Harrods spokesman said the cufflinks were the last gift the princess had received from her father, and that it would give him, she told Dodi, great joy to know they were in safe and special hands. A reminder again that in a few minutes we'll be bringing you the live tribute by the Queen to Princess Diana. But first we move on to today's other main news. The crisis in Israel has intensified. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, ruled out handing over any more land to the Palestinians until there was a crackdown on Islamic militants. It follows the killing early this morning of 12 Israeli commandos in southern Lebanon and yesterday's suicide bombings in Jerusalem. Hugh Pym reports.
It was the Israeli army's bloodiest clash in Lebanon for 12 years. The Marine commandos were killed during an operation north of the city of Tyre, just outside a 9-mile deep security zone established by the Israelis. Troops occupied the area with the aim of protecting northern Israel from guerrilla attacks. The clash, which left 11 commandos dead and a 12th missing, was the second trauma for Israel in 24 hours. The Prime Minister, responding to yesterday's bombing in Jerusalem and the casualties in Lebanon, said he would not bow to terrorism.
We are absolutely committed to resist these terrorists, and we believe that with our resolve and our commitment, we will achieve the secure peace that our people deserve.
But with scores injured and 4 dead after yesterday's suicide bombing in a West Jerusalem shopping mall, the peace process in the Middle East has been severely battered. Hugh Pym, ITN.
Well, in a few moments, the Queen will be giving her live tribute to Princess Diana. But first, I'm joined in the studio by our royal correspondent, Nicholas Owen. Nick, the Queen is making what has been called the most important broadcast of her life. What should we look out for in it?
Well, I think it is undoubtedly the most important, certainly the most testing, live, as you say, many years since she did a TV broadcast in that way. First of all, officials say it will be from the heart. In other words, very much last-minute things in it, I think. She will draw almost certainly, I think, on personal experiences this very afternoon. We also saw those extraordinary scenes outside Buckingham Palace and St James's Palace when she met some among the big crowd there. And she will refer directly to that, I think. She was said, incidentally, by some witnesses to be quite tearful and upset. She may quote, I think, what one or two people said to her. It's just possible that she will recall their words. I think it is quite likely she will mention by name the Princes William and Harry and her great concern that their interests and problems should come first in this. And finally, yes, a tribute to Diana, but the point is everybody will be very closely examining exactly what she does say when it comes to that passage.
Well, that speech in just under a minute, but first, another important event tonight, Nick.
Yes, the coffin of Diana, Princess of Wales, will move at about 8 o'clock from St James's Palace, where it's been lying in the Chapel Royal, to head back to Kensington Palace. It may be a few minutes after 8 o'clock, but we think it's around that time. And it will be taken to Kensington Palace, where the extended funeral begins tomorrow. It won't go back exactly the same way as it comes tomorrow, if you see what I mean. There's one diversion. It will go straight along Knightsbridge and Kensington Road and not in the park. But it is a sort of preview, I suppose, of the funeral tomorrow.
Thank you, Nick. Well, in just a few seconds from now, the Queen makes her broadcast live from Buckingham Palace. We cross now live to Buckingham Palace for the Queen's tribute to Princess Diana.
Since last Sunday's dreadful news, we have seen throughout Britain and around the world an overwhelming expression of sadness at Diana's death. We have all been trying in our different ways to cope. It is not easy to express a sense of loss, since the initial shock is often succeeded by a mixture of other feelings: disbelief, incomprehension, anger, and concern for those who remain. We have all felt those emotions in these last few days. So what I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her 2 boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her. I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death. I share in your determination to cherish her memory. This is also an opportunity for me, on behalf of my family, and especially Prince Charles and William and Harry, to thank all of you who have brought flowers, sent messages, and paid your respects in so many ways to a remarkable person. These acts of kindness have been a huge source of help and comfort. Our thoughts are also with Diana's family and the families of those who died with her. I know that they too have drawn strength from what has happened since last weekend, as they seek to heal their sorrow and then to face the future without a loved one. I hope that tomorrow we can all, wherever we are, join in expressing our grief at Diana's loss and gratitude for her all too short life. It is a chance to show to the whole world the British nation united in grief and respect. May those who died rest in peace, and may we, each and every one of us, thank God for someone who made many, many people happy.
The Queen speaking live from Buckingham Palace. Nick Owen, an obviously emotional broadcast by the Queen.
Yes, John. We were promised it would be from the heart. It very clearly was. I don't think we have ever heard the Queen like that. We've never seen the Queen like that. She didn't stumble. You could hear the crowd noise outside, those huge crowds. I mean, that was something that struck me. And the things she said, and the tribute to Diana, exceptional and gifted human being, she said. And the Queen she shared the admiration and respect of people everywhere for her. And she did talk so much about William and Harry, the two boys.
And it was quite interesting. We've never seen her in that setting with, as you said, the crowd behind her. There was obviously a reason for that.
Yes, I think so. The Queen wanted to, not just the words, but wanted the whole environment to be obvious that she was sharing the nation's grief. And I don't think anybody seeing that anywhere in the world will have any doubt that that grief is totally, totally genuine. Whatever has happened in that family, which has happened in almost every family in the land anyway, no doubt at all that it is very, very, felt very, very deeply for her. And she kept coming back to this point about the needs of the boys. And she talked about this business of being up at Balmoral. There's been a lot of criticism of that. Where's our Queen, the newspaper said. Well, the answer came from the Queen's own lips today. They've been helping William and Harry come to terms with their loss.
As you say, that there has been criticism that they were at Balmoral. This speech was specifically designed to answer that criticism. Do you think it will succeed?
Yes, I think it will. Public opinion is notoriously fickle. People always say that. It's been swaying away from the royal family, if you like, in the